So you can create a cryptocurrency where you can validate that if some people work harder than others, they can actually be rewarded, not only in cash or in the traditional ways of paying a salary, but also in crypto that is mined at the farm, but that is growing in value because the farm and the internal economy of the farm can also trade in crypto, removing the need for trading everything in cash, and therefore removing the need for taxation, essentially, in some way, shape, or form. Now, that's a very, very interesting proposal here, because there is no limit to the value of this investment. And of course, our membership here is generally going to be focused on people who are in Montreal because they're going to see the most amount of benefits. But add in crypto, right? Add in the idea that NFTs are a way of us transferring information in a way that I can't change or nobody else can change. No one member can change. They enable security and allow people to invest, but it also can allow people to invest in specific projects, and it also can be found in a vehicle of our own cryptocurrency. For example, let's say we built a cryptocurrency on the Ethereum blockchain, so we create essentially a kind of our own version of a coin. Let's call it the Valhalla coin. And that Valhalla coin now enables people from around the globe on the floating market to be able to go in and out of their investment in Valhalla at any one moment. Now, the same is true for the NFT owner, right? We're not forcing you to be a member. You could sell your membership at any time, and you can sell it at whatever price you want to sell it at, realistically based on the value that other people are willing to pay for it. So if that value is $1,000, well, then you get your $1,000 back. If that value is higher, which likely it will be, or at least if you invested in the first place, you believe it will be, maybe sell it for $2,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. But crypto is not limited to 150 people. It doesn't need to be scarce. It could be scarce based on the tokenomics that we choose to use. And that's where it can get really interesting. You see, one of the biggest criticisms of Bitcoin is that the way that Bitcoin is mined is by solving complex math equations with computing power. Okay? So without getting super fucking geeky, crypto works by the power of a computer, or processor, RAM, whatever, the CPU of a computer, participating and solving with many other computers all around the globe small pieces of massive equations that take, an enormous amount of physical energy. Like when I say energy, I mean literally power, right? Like electricity to solve. And they're mined in that way. Now, other cryptocurrencies are mined in different ways. They're created, they have different layers of scarcity. For example, Bitcoin has a maximum of 21 million, which creates an inherent scarcity, which means as long as people want to buy Bitcoins into the future, and eventually we can't mine anymore, which is not that far out, then the scarcity or the value of those crypto will go up because the supply is now limited. And some of the supply is lost in hard wallets. It's stored in a vault that people can't access. They lost the password, whatever it is. So there's even a diminishing supply at some point too, right? Long story short, it's requiring an enormous amount of energy to mine and to process that Bitcoin, right? But what if we came up with tokenomics that were based on something very tangible and real, like the number of hours that people spend on the farm? So you can create a cryptocurrency where you can validate that if some people work harder than others, they can actually be rewarded, not only in cash or in the traditional ways of paying a salary, but also in crypto that is mined at the farm, but that is growing in value because the farm and the internal economy of the farm can also trade in crypto, removing the need for trading everything in cash, and therefore removing the need for taxation, essentially, in some way, shape, or form. And enabling us to create wealth out of nothing in the same way that we create wealth out of nothing, that is a fruit tree. Plant a tree today. It's very little nothing. It's just a thing. It doesn't really provide value. But wait a few years and it starts making cherries or pears or plums. And now all of a sudden it's more and more valuable, and it's a value that sustains. So what if you can do that in the world of community and in the world of finance for our farm? What if we can make our Valhalla coin that enabled people to invest and speculate on the value of Valhalla from abroad, like in Boston or in New Zealand, because they believe in what we're doing? And not just from the perspective of selling the story, which we can do, right? You can pump Dogecoin to the moon. And, I have an episode of the podcast where I talk about that and whether you should invest in that or not. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here to tell you what to invest in or not. I just believe that I would be willing to invest in other eco-villages that are doing it right. So why not enable people to do that too? And why not create a way where I can reward people equally based on the most democratic thing that I could think of, which is time. But not necessarily time for money, but time for reward. Meaning, hey, at our coffee shop or at our bistro, we sell garlic. Well, if you helped us for 5 hours on the farm, that should entitle you maybe to some benefits of the farm, right? And those benefits don't have to only be given to members, but they can be given to any volunteer or anybody who's showing up regularly, including members. Well, if we create tokens and we can give away those tokens because we're creating them out of nothing, right? They're validated and put onto the blockchain. They're created on the blockchain through a system of check-in, check-out. I haven't figured out all the tech or I haven't figured out how I want to do this. And remember, I'm inventing this in this conversation. This is the first time I'm ever speaking this. But let's assume that we can create the most democratic way of earning this crypto. The most democratic way of doing that is to give it to the people who are spending the most amount of time growing the fundamental value of the farm itself to begin with. The crypto is backed by the farm, maybe in a land trust. Maybe we all become owners of the farm because we took the value of the land and made that the initial backing of this crypto. Let's assume. But even if we don't do that, the value is in the value that we believe it has. And if you spend 5 hours helping us pick the garlic or pick the weeds out of the garlic, then maybe we can reward you by giving you some free garlic or some free eggs or something else that you can exchange with other people. Maybe it's a system that people use to trade time. I'll give you 5 coins and you can use those 5 coins to buy something at the farm. Or you can use those 5 coins to sell them on the open market because there's somebody else willing to buy them at whatever price it's valued at. Let's say the coins are $1. You got $5 or 5 coins, you sold them on the open market. You could do that. Or you could store them and invest and believe that maybe they're going to go to $2 or $100, just like you believe in crypto of any other nature or kind. So you can speculate, you can liquidate, and you can leave at any one moment, which then removes the risk of why people don't want to be investors in the first place, right? Many times people do not want to invest in large community scale projects because they can't exert their control over that project. Now, that's a beautiful thing and it's a sad thing at the same time. It's beautiful because we don't want this project to be under the exertion or control of one person because then it's a private residence and an estate. And the only main people who benefit from an estate is the people who live there or the people who own it. But if we can remove the need for this estate or ownership to be just a singular person and instead build agreements, again, that are fungible, meaning I can come in and out, but that the deeds are non-fungible, meaning I can't replicate it. I can't just invent the crypto or there's no way of me faking it in some way, shape, or form. Then you're building a real-world use case and a real-world economy with real-world backing and assets and real-world value that everyday people and anyone who is contributing in any way that the community deems as contributing or volunteering or supporting or working, whatever word you want to use, we can reward those people and we can grow the supply of those coins in a way that is the most sustainable of all time. Not only is it not going to use energy, well, it will use some energy to validate or put the information on the blockchain, but all the work that we're doing, planting trees, taking care of essentially sequestering carbon through farming and regenerative farming, because that's what we're doing, we're literally removing the carbon footprint. And in fact, we're sequestering carbon through the creation of this crypto. So we're solving the biggest pain point of this crypto, or at least one of the biggest pain points of traditional crypto. We're validating people for volunteering, enabling more people to be interested in volunteering and having reward with that beyond just the reward that they get of meeting interesting people and learning things and all those other member benefits or non-member benefits, even if they're a tourist just showing up for a weekend or for a day or for a few hours. And it enables all of that to function as a win-win-win system. All right, ladies and gentlemen, superheroes, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we're going to swoosh that right out. It's basically the iPad stops recording. This is a constant stream of thought. I really want this to... I love the idea that I'm just streaming straight. Like we never edit anything out of this. Like there's no censored element to what I'm doing or saying. But every once in a while we have a little technical, you know what I mean? Every once in a while some stuff goes down. Okay, so I'm just going to reiterate that I believe that by adopting a crypto, by allowing membership to be owned, you are creating ownership in not only the investment, but more so in the growth of the farm, where now all of a sudden somebody says, you know what, I'm willing to buy a tractor for the farm because I think it's going to accelerate the growth of the farm. I'm willing to invest more money, build a smart contract, and have in a way that I get paid back, or invest in a little piece of it, and that contract, when executed, pays me in these exact ways. Now, that's no different than making a contract traditionally. That's no different than hiring a lawyer or not hiring a lawyer, writing up a draft of a contract or a proposal and signing it between you and the farm, right? But the vehicle upon which that is paid out, the vehicle upon which you can sell that investment by minting it and turning it into an NFT, now says, hey, I can invest in this tractor, but I don't have to just register all of that at the normal government level. I can also register that socially at the community level, kind of essentially building a system of governance of our own. And that is solving many of the clerical type of work, bookkeeping, accounting work, and deed work and like judge and jury work through decentralized power and decentralized systems that create win-win scenarios for the planet, for the farm, and for the investor. So the farm at the center, which is the community and the base of the community, wins because it grows and it brings on more investment and more people, more talent, and more agreements that enable it to grow. The person, the individual, wins because they get to do the agreements that they want to have and bring forward the projects and they have a vision that they have. And the planet wins because we're doing the right thing, my version of the right thing at least, or the community's version of the right thing, through regenerative agriculture, carbon farming, all the other things that I talked about in that last episode. Right? The 5 reasons we should invest in a farm, why I believe it's financially sustainable, but also environmentally sustainable, which I didn't spend that much time talking about. Right? But that sounds complex. And I know it's complex. I mean, I've been talking about it for like 50 minutes. But the truth is that I'm setting the stage, but the idea or the concept isn't that difficult to think about. It's like privately investing in a company that isn't on the public market. But the crypto that would be made is the public market. It's the version of an IPO. It's the version of taking what a community has built or a company has built and putting that value and letting it float on the private market and enabling the people who work at that community to own shares in the same way that WestJet, a Canadian airline, for example, allows its workers to own shares. Some given through their work and dedication, some that they are allowed to purchase at a lower price point or whatever it is because they're an owner. And then the concept is that if you're an owner of the airline, you're going to do your best work to make the airline function best. And if somebody's out of alignment, right, at a normal job, well, when they're out of alignment in a normal job, people kind of tolerate that if you're not an owner because you're like, screw management or whatever, screw the boss, screw whatever. And so we tolerate inefficiencies. We tolerate that people do things in a way that doesn't really lead to the growth of the company. Because the company has some direct tie to their salary, but not so direct that they feel like, oh, well, if we throw out and waste a bunch of plastic cups on the airline, well, it doesn't really matter. It maybe affects the bottom line. It maybe affects the amount of salary or the amount of raise that I can get, but not directly. But if I'm an owner, it directly affects me as a shareholder. And at a much smaller scale than an airline, at a 150-person community, the actions of one have a deep impact to many. And that many is not that big and so not only is there societal pressure or communal pressure to do the right thing or to find integrity, let's say, within the community, but there's also financial incentive aligned with every one of those members for everyone to do their best possible job to collaborate. Now, that is a very idealistic utopian statement. There are always going to be people that are doing what they consider to be best, but might not be best for the whole, right? We are always going to suffer some level of what we call the tragedy of the commons, which is what's good for me might not be good for the greater community. But we can solve elements of the tragedy of the commons by making people co-owners. We can solve elements of competition, essentially, or a competitive mindset, or a very capitalistic-only mindset by merging capitalism with some level of communal ownership. Not communism. Communal ownership and communal winning. Communism is saying there's one ruling thing and party and they decide all the rules. I'm not saying that. I'm saying 150 of us can decide what those rules are and we can have all the structures for governance that we choose to adopt. I'm not talking about governance. I'm talking about the governance of agreements between the co-op and its members. I'm talking about our ability to enable people to be investors today that can appreciate and value later. And I truly believe that there is always going to be somebody willing to join this 150-person community. And then investing $1,000 today enables the community to have, let's say, $150,000 minus the minting fees of making the NFTs, let's say $25,000. So $125,000 to do what? Well, one, build common infrastructure. We can lay out exactly what we're going to spend $125,000 on. That's the point of management. That's the point of somebody like me who's a manager of the farm. We could say, hey, if you invest, this is where their money is going to go. Or this is where the percentage of the money is going to go. So your $1,000 will go 10% here, 20% there, 30% here, whatever it is. Right? And if you believe in that vision, that's when you buy a membership. If you believe in the community, you believe in the people, you see value of that beyond just the investment itself, then you're going to win through the value of the community and what you can learn, all the things you're going to go to, the events, the people you're going to meet, whatever it is. You're going to win that way, the intangible ways, but you're also going to win the tangible ways. And when I say tangible, I just mean the financial, right? That's what I'm speaking about. And that enables that 125,000 or that 150,000 could enable us the money that we need to develop the entire roadmap of the community. Now, are we going to hit every checkpoint of that roadmap? No. But if you make a roadmap, you tend to hit it much more closely than if you don't. Hence why we have CFOs and CEOs and COOs of companies who make the roadmap of where a company is going to go, what they're going to invest in, what verticals they're going to get involved in, what kind of financial team they're going to put in place, what kind of financial structure, what they can expect in terms of revenues, what they can expect in terms of expenses, like any traditional company. Right? So we're still going to run a traditional farm, a traditional company and a traditional farm and all the other things that go with it, but it enables us to have ownership or stake in that. Skin in the game. When you have skin in the game, you start treating the farm and the project and the community differently. And that is what I am looking to solve. That is the future of our farm. Now, is it going to happen through crypto and blockchain? I don't know. This is a thesis that I'm putting out there and testing because I want your feedback, right? You hear this story, you hear what we're doing here, and I want your feedback. And I want not only your feedback, the random person who's watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Spotify, but I also want the community's feedback. Where can I upgrade this idea? Maybe we use NFTs to sell parts of the land. What if people invest $50,000 now, but that becomes almost like a deposit for the future purchase of the land at a set price, or instead of a set price, a set discount? Because we don't know when they buy it. And if somebody buys it today, that set price makes sense now, but what if inflation goes out through the roof and that price doesn't make sense later because maybe we're Zimbabwe and our money goes from dollars to trillions of dollars and they're effectively the same thing. So instead of focusing on a specific price point, we can focus on a specific discount, right? If you're a member, the only way members can buy land, the only people who can buy land are members. The only way they can become members, they have to go through a membership process. I'm not talking about that right here and right now, what our membership process is, although I have ideas about it, and maybe I'll make a future podcast about it. If you maybe want to hear about that, in the comments down below, let me know. And I mean that. Let me know. If you engage in the comments, you hit that like button, that subscribe button, all those things, right? That's helpful. It's really helpful to us. It creates engagement and gives more people to listen, right? That being said, let me know in the comments if that's something you want to hear. But it enables us to finance the future roadmap of what we are building and creating. And that roadmap at this moment is scaling mainly at the speed of me and the speed of our talent, which is good, but not perfect. It's slower than it needs to be. And traditional companies that are non-communal and run from the top down do not necessarily, they can solve that by raising capital. They can solve that by doing a private equity round or an angel investment round or a seed round or whatever version or stage of what they're at. And so in a sense, I'm like that seed investor, that angel investor. Not only did I physically plant the seeds that were the first seeds on the farm, or at least of this chapter of the farm, or this chapter of this soil, because I don't see myself as the owner of anything. I'm going to die one day is what I'm trying to say. And I don't own the earth, but I steward it. What I hope is that people can rally behind this, see the vision, give us enough space and time to create that vision, give us enough space and time to build the membership structures and all of the agreements and the tokenomics behind all of these things. And it enables anyone and everyone all around the world to speculate on adding value to our farm by buying the crypto or by buying a membership. That enables us to become a net importer of resources and a net exporter of communal values, of events, of food, of talent, of whatever our company or our organization or our farm creates. So this is innovating outside of the lines of what a normal farm does. See, a normal farm in the eyes of the government is, if you're a farm and you're a full-time farmer, you can build a house. And that's great, but we're losing that war. There are less and less people making food. There are less and less people stewarding the land. And we are selling more and more of our farm land to foreign entities and foreigners. And we're less and less connected to where our food comes from. And therefore, we're less and less connected to the shortcuts that they take in making our food, or the glyphosate that they put in our food, which maybe you want or maybe you don't want. And I'm not here to speculate what's good for you. I'm just here to say we want to do it this way. And some people believe in that. Some people want to eat all organic, non-GMO. Great, we will provide that. We will create that. But we need your help to do that. We need your resources to do that. And you need my resources to do that. We need your talent to do that. So how do we make all of those things scale? And how do we create real win-win scenarios? That is my fundamental principle in business. It's my fundamental principle as an investor, or what I would call myself a philanthropreneur. The ROI of return on investment needs to meet the ROI of ripple of impact. That's what this farm is an experiment in. And I believe that this vehicle can enable that in a way that is unlike anything else. But it has to break the norms of how traditional companies are made. And we now have the technology to do that. We now have the technology to innovate in multiple ways, whether that be machine learning or AI in the farm or in the field, whether that be solar panels and the technology of that, or efficiencies that we can find via the technology of new tools. But what about efficiencies in the technology of new governance systems or new ownership systems or new ways of interacting and creating contracts with one another? What if we innovated and thought different? What if we thought long-term? I believe investing in something like this is a worthwhile investment in time, energy, and at the minimum, it's a worthwhile experiment to me. So I think that I would love for people to feel like they can invest in pieces of the farm and potentially even invest in the smallest scales of business of the farm and get return through these different systems. Now, the biggest gaping holes in this is that I have not done the work of the tokenomics of the crypto. I have not figured out what it's going to cost us to do those things. I have not sourced who's going to code that and what system of let's say mining we're going to use, or proof of work we're going to use, or proof of stake we're going to use, right? But what I do believe is that I and others who are smarter than me can figure that out. And what I do believe is this is a fast lane to making something like this happen, and it's replicable in a way that is incredibly impactful and can lead not only to this 150-person community, but maybe Valhalla, Costa Rica, or Valhalla, Mexico, or Valhalla, Vermont. And I don't think that has to all be run by me. It doesn't have to be started by me. It doesn't have to have necessarily the same ethos as I do, or the same ethos as the Montreal farm does. But it can have some underlying principles. It could become a replicable model just like Bitcoin was, just like essentially blockchain technology was, right? How many coins are there now that all have different tokenomics and different functions and forms, some of which are shit coins and others which are amazing? And I'm not here to tell you which one is which. You or the market decides that, and that's capitalism at its finest. But capitalism right now is built on a paradigm of growth, a paradigm where we have to make more because we are an inherently scarce game. The game that there is more debt than there is money. And that is not a system I want to continue to subscribe to. I want to find ways to build abundance for all, no matter what level you are at in the game. That is our current system. And when I say level, I mean finance. And yes, people with dollars or euros might always yield power even at the farm. They will always have power if we believe in something powerfully. But if we are not willing to try and make an alternative, or if we're not willing to at least build our own microcosms and our micro ecosystems, if you want to call it that, both physically with the farm, but also communally with the agreements within the people of the farm, then we're not really trying to innovate in a way that I think is truly disruptive. The word that it first came to mind was radical, but is it a radical idea that I want to eat clean food? Is it a radical idea that I want to have fresh air? Is it a radical idea that I want to live in a world where the problems of pollution aren't affecting my health or your health or my future generations' health, whether they're my kids or your kids? Can we not find a way to solve the tragedy of the commons in some way, shape, or form? I'm not saying this is a solution to everything. It's not. But I believe this might be the solution to sustainable living. Or this might create at least a vehicle that can lead to further solutions to these things. And I think it's a frame of mind that could be really, really, really deeply impactful. And so that's my vision. That's my story. That's the story I've been ruminating in my mind for over a year. It is imperfect. It has all kinds of things that I would love to upgrade. And I want to go through the thought experiment, number one, of telling the story and getting good at telling the story. That's my own personal, dharma and my role that I play in the ecosystem that is the farm. But I want to actually find and attract the talent of people who are going to give me amazing ideas for tokenomics that I can help implement with them, or even if it's not with them, that I can help bring to the community and start building upon. And I'm just a crazy motherfucker who's willing to do these crazy things, to invest my time, energy, and money into trying this stuff. And sure, there's benefits for me as a consultant. There's benefits for me testing things and learning things about building stuff online. There's benefits to me as a storyteller because I get to maybe bring my innovative ideas to some conference in Miami about Bitcoin or whatever it is, and how we're using crypto and blockchain to do real world things. And that's solving some of the most fundamental criticisms of these technologies to begin with. What is the use of blockchain, or what is the use of Bitcoin other than a store of value? Well, what if we had this as a store of value tied to real things, like real, tangible, physical things? And many cryptocurrencies are doing that, but we just get to be one that maybe attempts to do that in this way and attempts to enable voting systems that can also happen on blockchain, because blockchain can be used for voting and validating the votes. It can be used to speed up an enormous amount of processes, including bookkeeping and accounting, in a very powerful way. It can speed up lawyers and contracts. It can speed up a way that we transfer money or resources or wealth. It can be used as vehicles to support the best tax structure for transferring wealth, potentially. There's so many benefits that I literally do not have the time, energy, or smarts to tell you right here and right now. But what I know is that we get to innovate, and that I'm having fun doing it. That I'm having a great time trying to figure out how I can scale community. And I think that this first 10-year window, we're in our 9th season, and next year we're planning on building that first communal house. It's my house because I'm the legal farmer, or one of the legal farmers, and that's how the vehicle, playing the rules of the game, I'm a full-time farmer, and I can be able to build this communal house that I'm going to use as a springboard to make other things like this happen, to make essentially the exact movement that is looking to protect farmland and and promote farming, including the farmers' unions, including what we call the CPTRQ here in Quebec, I'm actually aligning myself with their goals and saying, I want to create farmers, but I know that most people can't afford to farm or they don't have the skill set to farm, even though they want to invest in a farm. They would love to have a farm in their backyard. They would love to learn, but they need places to do that. And so the way I see it is our farm is a bridge for people getting into farming, learning about regenerative agriculture, learning about investing in farms to begin with. And that's a way that we can attract resources to these, what I consider to be one of the most important industries on the planet, because we eat every day and it's the number one industry impacting climate change and or pollution and or deforestation. Whichever one of those you subscribe to, it's happening. We're cutting more trees than we are planting. We're polluting, putting more plastics in our oceans than there are going to be fish in 2050, according to some estimates. So I don't care if you believe in climate change or if it's some political thing. Forget it. Forget that. I don't want plastic in my food. I want trees. I don't want to cut down more forests. And we get to find ways to do that. So I'm not talking about the innovation of how we're going to do that as a farmers yet in this episode, but we are doing that. We're finding ways to do regenerative agriculture, and we're finding ways to regenerate our trust with one another without putting any one person or any one party or entity at the top. So this is a top-down and also a bottom-up run community. How do we make that torus field, that magnetic transfer and exchange happen between the people who are at the bottom, quote unquote, the everyday members, including me, because I'm one of those members, only one, and yes, I have a bigger role in management just because I have more experience in doing it and because I choose to do it. Because I choose that this is one of my passions. And there are others who are going to choose that too, right? I would love to make a council of 13 or 12 where we have different people running the different vehicles of the farm. I don't want to do the accounting or bookkeeping. It's the thing I hate the most. Finance is a vehicle that I understand, but it doesn't mean I love it. It doesn't mean I want to do the work. I would love to have a CFO at the farm. I would love for people to take some of these responsibilities from me. I would love for people to pick where the fruit trees are going to go or how we're going to innovate and make more garden beds for our garlic. I would love that people would take on some of these roles. But my pain point is what I'm trying to point out here. And my pain point isn't unique to me. It's unique to owners in general of resources or assets like land specifically or like businesses specifically. So bosses many times over, sometimes, not all, but many people do want to distribute power. We just don't know how. We just haven't had the ability or resources or the innovative time or space to figure out how. And I just feel wealthy enough, not just financially, but rich enough in my being or in my soul, in my heart, to try this. So with that said, this is a speculative idea. I hope that this story fascinated you. I hope that maybe you learned something about it. I hope this got your wheels turning for maybe what the community you want to build. And please let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I said wrong, if you think I'm fucking crazy, if you think I should be innovating this way or that way. And please, for the love of God, hit that goddamn subscribe button, hit that like button, and show some love to Kyler and I, who spend so much time editing and creating these episodes. Show some love for the people who are building the community and the world that we know is possible in our hearts. That's what this is about. It's not about me. I'm just a storyteller. I'm just one of the inputs in this ecosystem, and I am honored to be that input. So see you in the next episode.